So welcome back. I hope we grabbed some coffee. We're all feeling okay. Last session of today. We did ring the bell a little bit late. The speed networking was not quite working, but we'll get back into it. So we have a really excellent presentation now from Michael Goh, who's the Managing Director of SICK, Sensors Intelligent Sensors. And this topic now is about driving supply chain stability via digital application. So sustainability is a big word. It's not a word that's going to disappear. It's not a buzzword. So what Michael will go through today is our sustainability objectives and expectations are only going to grow, continually grow in the future. And we need initiatives to drive the scalability and success of what we have for sustainable options. Digital applications will accompany these initiatives, and they can drive outcomes to be better and faster, and then help us understand and reach targets collectively as a group of companies, but at the same time as humans to protect our planet. So I'll let Michael introduce himself, but he will now present on driving supply chain sustainability via digital applications. So Michael, stage is yours. Thank you.
Mic test. F. Okay, great. Okay, glad to see everybody back from their tea break. This should be working, I hope. Yep. Okay, as more of you trickle back in, yeah. A very good afternoon to everyone, and I hope you enjoyed your tea break and enjoying the session here at LogiSYM so far this year. Right? I'm not sure how many of you were here last year, but it's always a great event organized by LogiSYM. My name is Michael. I'm the Managing Director for SICK in Southeast Asia. SICK is a sensor company. Prior to this, I was with Bosch for 20 over years in various industries and various departments and divisions within Bosch. So today I'll touch on driving supply chain sustainability via digitalization. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it? Right? But let's get down to it. But a short introduction first. Who is SICK? I always get that funny question, right? SICK? You're not feeling well? But by the way, it makes for a very good, interesting opener. So I work for SICK, and it's actually my founder's name, right? Dr. Irvin SICK was the founder of the company, so it says SICK Sensor Intelligence. So people think that SICK, Sensor Intelligence, something. Okay, it's not. So we started off in a shed, 70 over years ago. So we are in good company with the rest of the tech companies that tend to start up in a garage or a shed somewhere. So it's an in thing. So if you want to start up a tech company, find a shed. And this is not working. So we are headquartered in Veldkirch, in the middle of the Black Forest. Nice place. Well, beautiful forest there. We have more than 50 subsidiaries worldwide, more than 2 billion euros of sales, and more than 11,000 employees across the world. So when it comes to supply chain, we are familiar with the physical flow of the supply chain, raw materials going into a manufacturing site, manufacturing going through having a logistics process, you have your delivery, you send it to the customer. Some of you who are more matured like myself would be more used to going to shops to buy things. My kids just press buttons and it gets delivered. Right? So I prefer going to a physical shop. And back in those days, I go to a shop, I buy something, I go back, and if I don't like it, shucks. Okay, I just keep it, right? But nowadays, what happens? You buy something online, you just buy different sizes. I don't know whether you do this or not, right? I know some of my friends do. They buy different sizes, and then they bring it, they wear it, doesn't fit, they return, right? And so the material flow starts to change, right? It's not one way anymore from raw material, production, delivery, and customer stops there. Maybe my time, it stops there. Nowadays, it goes backwards as well. Don't like the color, doesn't fit well, send it back, right? So there's a lot of things going back and forth. And to make things worse, customers are getting more and more demanding, right? So I help my son buy things on Shopee and Lazada. Okay, click, okay, done, son, it's done. Just wait for delivery. 2 days later, is it here yet? I check my app. No, it's not here yet. I don't know when it's going to come, right? Okay. 2 days later, he'll come and ask, is it here yet? Or when is it going to come? Right? So customers are getting more and more demanding. They want to know when is it coming, maybe to the exact date, or sometimes if you're buying perishable goods from supermarket, you want to know even the time that it's going to come, because you don't want it to be, your yogurt stuck in your front door and you're not able to put it in, right? So there's a greater need for information now based on how we are buying things, right? And all that poses more challenges and requires more data. Right? How do you capture all that data? And that is challenges that all of us face these days moving forward. Pain points, lots of them. So if you think that I'm some expert coming here to tell you all the solutions, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of problems, right? So I'll probably highlight more problems so that you think about it and see how you can address them within your organization. Not so much of, here's the magic pill, right, that the panel spoke about just now. There's no such magic pill that you swallow and it solves all your logistics and digitalization problems. So pain points, there's complexity of supply chains. In the past, maybe you can have reliable supply coming from one location, but now with the bipolar world and the politics coming in, we cannot have this country of origin for manufacturing, but worse still, sometimes it goes down to even the components. We cannot have it from this country or that country. Sometimes we need to mitigate with multiple sources. So our supply chain is getting more and more complex. And if you want to be able to track your carbon footprint, right? So if let's say you're dealing with and supplying with somebody who wants to track his carbon footprint as a socially responsible company, how are you going to provide that information to them that this is my carbon footprint across the supply chain? In order to implement some of these sustainability ideas, it comes with money, right? We talk about all those fancy softwares and the application on the cloud. All these comes with certain amount of resources, right? Do you have the resources to even implement some of these solutions in order for me to be sustainable? In order for me to calculate what my carbon footprint is, to be able to share that information. Right? And maybe I don't have adequate resources, right? And those resources might not only be money to implement, but also people. Do I have the right people who are able to interpret all this information? Do I have the people who has the knowledge to pull all this data together, make sense of it, and to give me meaningful outcomes, right? So that's also another issue. And non-availability of technologies. Great, we want to capture data, and with that data we'll have full transparency. But in some cases we are able to apply sensors in order to capture the data. In some cases not, right? And I think there is no perfect solution whereby at every stage of the entire supply chain you will be able to find a technology that you can apply. Sometimes, yes, you can find the technology, but maybe you don't like the cost, right? And sometimes it's cheap, but it's not a reliable technology. So there are trade-offs there as well. A lack of established sustainability framework. So different countries right now, they are implementing their own rules and laws pertaining to if you want to sell it into their country and you want to claim that you are sustainable, how do you prove that you are sustainable, right? And different countries and regions are coming out with their own laws and regulation. So if we think that we are going towards a stage whereby we will have one regulation across the world when it comes to how we measure sustainability, then we are very wrong, because like many other regulations, the Europeans will have their own, the Americans will have their own, the Japanese will have their own. Sometimes in Southeast Asia, we make out our own, right? And we don't follow anybody else. So then it becomes, there's no one framework. And if I want to be able to prove to you that I am operating in a sustainable way, how do I do that without data, right? And then data becomes key, right? So we talk about digitalization and sustainability. It's also very much the topic of the audit, right? How do you audit a company to know that they are sustainable or not? How do we know whether what their carbon footprint is? And nowadays you hear about the establishment of carbon exchange. And if I, as a company, would like to sell carbon credits, how do I determine that I have sufficient carbon credits? I have been doing things in a sustainable way and therefore can sell carbon credits. So these are challenges that governments and companies would have to think about when they want to show that they are sustainable, when they want to prove that, this is my carbon footprint, data becomes key. So these are some of the elements and the components of a sustainable supply chain. Obviously, the green supply chain comes to mind. We hear of people changing their delivery trucks from diesel or gasoline ones to electric vehicles. We think about how can we have more sustainable packaging, recyclable materials, biodegradable materials, and so on and so forth. When we think about transparent supply chain, we see, okay, how can we collect that data across from one end to another end? In terms of my suppliers, are they sustainable? And doing it in a sustainable way, right? And maybe one supplier can give me that information, but not all suppliers. Now we are even tracking let's say the coffee beans or the fish that I'm buying. Are they grown in a sustainable way? Are they caught in a sustainable way, right? How would you know, right? And that's where solutions like blockchain can come into place, where you are able to track how credible, when they say that it is done in a sustainable way, is it so? So last week I was on the discussion with a gentleman from SAP, and he was sharing with us examples of how they are tracking the catching of salmon off some sea in Indonesia, to be able to track, okay, this is where the fish came from, this is how we tested it, this is, these are caught in a sustainable way, right? These are not farmed, right? So these are, we need to apply technologies to be able to show and prove that our processes, the way we grow things are sustainable. The other point in this whole component of sustainable supply chain is the circular supply chain, right? Circularity. Now we talk about recycle, reuse, refurbish, right? And increasingly, we want to try to get the raw materials through the system several times before we throw it away, right? And that's one good way of how we preserve the earth and try to be more sustainable by just reusing the materials that we have. But when we want to do that, how do we design the product such that we can take it apart and maybe reuse them, right? Certain parts reuse, then refurbish again and then resell it. But when we want to sell a refurbished item or a renewed item, right, how do we then also provide that information to the customer? Because if you as a customer, sometimes you might want to buy something that is new, that means fresh out of production, nobody, the raw materials have been used the first time. Right? There are other people who says, I don't mind if some of the raw materials have been reused, refurbished, and I'm using a refurbished item. But then how do you communicate that? But how do you track that these components are used the second time, the third time? And there will be a certain point in time whereby you cannot refurbish and reuse anymore, right? And how do you know that that time has come? how do you communicate to the customer? And I, as a customer, would also want to know that this battery cell, for example, has been used X number of times. It would be dangerous for me to continue using it, right? So these are challenges as manufacturers, as consumers, we will want to know. And what we need is data, right? And without the data, we will not be able to track all these things and to be able to communicate to customers effectively. Some of the components, technology components for sustainable supply chain, we talk about data is key, but how do you obtain the data? One way, of course, is through sensors. You can apply sensors, especially in brownfield kind of environments, to be able to obtain data, and that's something that we do quite a lot at ZIC. With end users, we come to an end user plant or a warehouse and they say, hey, look, this part of my plant and I want to capture data, but I have no way of doing that right now. Tell me what sensor I can apply in order to capture that data. And that's the consulting that we do with our customers. And after, once the data is collected, then we put it into a dashboard. That's where the Internet of Things comes in, or IIoT, where we provide that kind of transparency to the customers about all that data that he's collecting. Additive manufacturing is another way that we can help to be more sustainable by using 3D printing for fast prototyping instead of making things from scratch, wasting resources and materials. I think this is something that a lot of people are using to speed up, not only speed up, but also to reduce the amount of waste that goes into prototyping. Robots and automated things is another area that a lot of companies are applying in order to try to be more sustainable, right? So instead of having a lot of trucks doing delivery, a lot of motorcycles going around delivery, some companies are tinkering with, let's try robots, right? Electric robots delivering. So instead of your Grab driver or your Grab food coming to deliver your food, you have a bot coming. But there are challenges, right? How do you get the bot to press the elevator so that it comes to my 10th floor on my HDB flat and ring your doorbell, right? And tell you that I'm here, right? How do you get your bot to cross the road? Recently, I heard about this other company that is trying such that when the bot comes to the traffic light, there'll be a voice, and you say, can somebody please help me press the traffic light, the button? Yeah, I mean, they're trying that as well, right? But okay, how feasible, right? So there are a lot of challenges. Yes, you want to implement robotics in order to be more sustainable instead of having all these trucks and motorcycles going around. But yeah, I think there's still a certain level before technology catches up and until we are able to do that really from end to end. Drones is another thing I think you might have heard either in this room or in the room beside about the application of drones. I guess for delivery. So back when I was in Bosch, we were working with a company that was making drones to send medicines to remote islands in the South Pacific. Okay, I guess South Pacific, not a lot of buildings or vegetation or wires hanging around, right? So fine, you can send your drones. But then in an urban environment like Singapore, how do you send drones flying around delivering things without banging into something? But in the first place, in Singapore, when you want to send a commercial drone up there, you need CAAS to approve. And that, of course, poses other challenges. So application of drones for delivery in an urban environment, that's a challenge that we need to overcome, right? And then there's also the application of machine learning and artificial intelligence, which I will speak on in one of the later slides. So these are just some examples of the technologies that help companies be more sustainable and do things in a more efficient way, having a lower carbon footprint. This slide is a little bit messy, but let me go through it step by step. So right at the bottom, if you will follow me, is the physical supply chain, and that you are familiar with. right? In this physical supply chain, you are having data generation sources. That's on the top, right? So you are getting data from material supply data, you're having manufacturing data, logistics data, sales data. That can come from procurement, ERP systems. We talked about sensors, we talked about robots. We've got track and trace systems, point of sale systems, and all that information is going somewhere, and that typically goes into the cloud, right? And then you apply analytics to it. So there are also different maturity models. Right, so in the first place, once you have a lot of data, and sometimes you run into the danger of data overload, at the basic level, you are analyzing it to say, okay, what went wrong, right? What can I learn from it, and then how can I be better next time? How can I be more efficient? How can I be more sustainable? How can I optimize my routes? But it's more an afterthought after I look at the data and it's already happened. The next level of maturity we look into would be modeling. If this happens, what should I do? If that happens, what should I do? Right, and that's another step up, right? And then we go into control. When you have real-time information about what's going on, you are able to have better control over your systems, your planning, and to optimize your processes and supply chain flow. And then lastly, you then have the learning, right? And to be able to even predict that certain things will happen and cause a trigger such that you act on it before it does happen. So now there are AI, and I mentioned just now that I'll talk about AI. So there are AI platforms right now whereby you can take all this data on top, plug it into an AI platform, regardless of the different sources they come from, potentially different types of formats they come from, put it into an AI platform, and then using large language models, natural language, be able to start doing queries. And these are solutions that are actually available now, while maybe the application of it and the adoption of it is still a little far back. We have not really adopted that widespread in the industry, but you can basically, through natural language, ask the AI platform, and I'm sure a lot of you have played around with ChatGPT and Bard, right? You can ask the AI platform, okay, there is a typhoon coming and it will hit this so-and-so country on this date. How would that affect my supply chain and what should I change? Natural language. And then the large language model takes that natural language question, finds all the related information that would be affected by this incident that you have notified it of, and then it tells you, okay, based on this information, these are some of the options that you would consider, and then you as a logistics manager or operator would then take action based on some of the consequences, right? Further than that, if you instead of and that's kind of like modeling, right? Or what if kind of scenario. But but moving ahead, you are also maybe able to know from information that you are having that you will soon run out of stock of a particular item, right? So your supplier has just told you that the lead time for this item has increased from 3 months to 6 months. And a lot of you who are in production last year would have also experienced the supply chain shortages of components, some of them extending beyond a year, in fact. And so if you have these automatic triggers plugged into the AI, it could even potentially prompt you that, okay, this is what you should do without you having to ask the AI model. So such technology is already available in the market, and I guess we would see more and more companies adopting this moving forward, right? Even as we play around with ChatGPT and Bard, we see more of that also being applied into the enterprise space. So I say data is key, and right now there are two levels or two floors, right? The floor that we are familiar with is the shop floor. And the other floor that is very common right now is the data floor. Right, so this orange thing on top is not pollution, that's the cloud. Right? I tried to draw a cloud. And so with cloud technology right now, we have the ability and to basically put all this information into one common platform. And regardless of where your location is, and sometimes you have interdependencies across sources, right? Put all that information into the cloud, and then you can start analyzing that. And I think I'm running out of time. So in an inbound warehouse, for example, you want to get more information and more data. The goods received process becomes important. You don't want to, if you have good information about what is potentially coming, and then you cross-check against what actually came, you avoid having the truck maybe forgetting to offload one box and then having to come back again, and increasing your carbon footprint. So having that pre-information about what is supposed to come and what you have received, and comparing that information would then also help you reduce wastage and repetition. There are also other simple ways to capture more data. Instead of just a simple handheld barcode scanner, you can use a camera vision solution, and then just with two hands pass it down through the camera, capturing more data than just barcode, and more data with OCR technology, capturing more data from the labels. On the production side, you want to have more visibility of things that are moving along the shop floor, right? And I'm mindful that I'm running out of time. Let me speed things up. In some cases, you have things that are automated, and you have areas that you are partially automated or non-automated. And how do we apply and capture more data here? It is possible by adopting solutions for identification. And then you have got solutions for localization, and then we've got software for analytics to be able to give you better situational awareness of what's happening, so that you can optimize your production flow and your logistics flow, and hence reduce your carbon footprint. And all that is traceable, all that is auditable, right? And so when ESG auditor comes and tries to audit you, you do not have to scramble through piles of paper, but you would be able to pull data that is obtained from technologies that help you identify things, locate things, and also in terms of the analytics. So we have found that by improving visibility, we have been able to reduce search times from an average of 45 minutes to 15 minutes. With greater transparency, we have been able to improve OEE for some of our customers by 10 to 20%. We are through real-time notification and timely notification, we have been able to help customers eliminate non-productive times by 20%. And through better control, given that data, a decrease in human error handling, we can reduce human errors by 8 to 14% based on some of the projects that we have implemented for our customers. Okay. And I'll skip this because we're running out of time. This is an example of a solution that we have, and it's called a tag log, whereby the pain points are in terms of assets that are missing, movable assets within the shop floor, and people spend a lot of time trying to find them. So this was actually quite a recent project that we did last year. There were a lot of movable assets around. There was a lot of time was spent going up and down floors trying to find them, and through localization solutions, we were able to increase productivity, shorten these search times, support in audits, and then have better quality production. And yeah, so I've run out of time now, and thankfully that's all the slides that I have. We do have a booth just right outside, so I would like to encourage, if you have further questions later, please feel free to come and visit our booth, and we will love to have a discussion on how sensorization, digitalization can help in the sustainability story. But at the end of the day, there's no one solution that will give you, the complete solution. And I think technology is evolving along the way, instead of going for the big bang and try to solve all problems, collecting all data, start off with the pain points. Where are you having problems? Where are you having inefficiencies? And let's start with sensorization of that area first to be able to get some benefits. You are able to then show to your bosses that, hey, look, I have improvements here in this small area. Let's then continue to sensorize and collect more data in other areas as we go along. Yeah, thank you very much.